What's up, YouTubers? I just want to make a short video on how LLCs are used to hide assets. Make of this what you will. This news story is coming from Bellingcat. I think Bellingcat's more of a left-leaning organization, so keep that in mind. Anyways, the article is called Flying High, the U.S. Connection to Venezuela's Narco Planes. It's basically how a lot of planes end up in South America or Venezuela and how they're registered. Anyways, I'm just going to go down here where it talks about how these things are registered. Anyways, the aircraft Rafale stated had been registered in the United States, a claim analyzed and confirmed by Bellingcat. I'm reading from the article. What's more, it appears to have been just the latest U.S. registered aircraft to be shot down or destroyed in Venezuela in recent years. Research by Bellingcat, which includes an extensive review of social media posts, corporate filings, aircraft registration databases, owner documents, and local news coverage, shows that Venezuelan armed forces appear to have destroyed at least 21 aircraft in the country since 2019. Now, I'm analyzing this article not from the point of view about Venezuela and our relationship to them, but just how these planes are registered, how you can make your assets disappear. And if you disagree with me, that's cool, but I'll wait till later in the video to say what might be happening. But anyways, I'll continue. At least 12 of those were registered in the U.S., although the true number could be higher, given the images of some planes analyzed were so damaged it was not possible to identify them. According to the Venezuelan government, 8 of these 12 U.S. registered aircraft were involved in the drug trade, with the other 4 downed or otherwise destroyed for apparently failing to follow a flight plan. A database detailing each aircraft can be found here. Anyways, again, this is from the Bellingcat, Bellingcat.com. I just want to scroll down here. Anyways, you're just talking about how Venezuela has been a transfer point for traffickers from Colombia and other countries like Mexico for a long time. Not much going on here, but here's what I want to talk about. A matter of trust and LLCs. Again, I'm going to start reading the article and quoting from this article. Let's discuss trust first. In the U.S., those who want to own aircraft can use a trust, an entity that enables a third party to hold assets on behalf of another person or organization to register that aircraft with the relevant authorities. By doing so, the person who in practice uses the aircraft known as the beneficiary doesn't have to reveal their true identity on paper or any documentation relating to the aircraft. The person or organization holding the asset on their behalf, known as a trustee, is also not obliged to reveal who the beneficiary is in any public records. Now here's just my comment. I'm not quoting this to point out how you can cheat on your taxes if you're a U.S. citizen. I'm just saying this is how you can make some of your assets invisible. And there's things you can do if you read between the lines of what the article says. So it's going to be very difficult to figure stuff out. Unless you're persona non grata, then again, I'll comment on that towards the end of the article. How trusts work. A trustor places an asset in a trust to be managed by the trustee. A trustee manages the trust and the asset on behalf of the beneficiary. The beneficiary could be the same person or organization as a trustor, but that's not always the case. The trustee is under no obligation to reveal the identity of the trustor or beneficiary in the public records, providing a layer of anonymity to the trust parties. For an aircraft trust, the trustee and beneficiary sign an operating agreement that specifies how the aircraft will be purchased or leased and under what terms the beneficiary will be able to use, control, and fly the aircraft. On paper, the person who owns the aircraft is a trustee. In practice, the person or organization that uses it is a beneficiary. To be clear, there are many legitimate reasons for individuals or groups to use a trust. These include limiting tax exposure and simplifying export procedures. It's also important to note that not everyone who uses trusts does so to ensure the anonymity. Some trusts manage the assets of many beneficiaries at the same time. The Maryland Historical Trust, for example, manages thousands of historical sites throughout the United States. Donors who buy or own landmarks place them in trust, which can defend, manage, and handle the paperwork for all cultural artifacts at once. Yet a March 2020 report from the U.S. Government Accountability Office highlighted a potentially troublesome quirk of trust. It noted that trust could be used to provide anonymity and a legal shield for aircraft-owning drug traffickers. Trusts, the GAO report notes, are not a registration type on the Federal Aviation Administration form that owners must complete to register an aircraft. Despite that, trusts can still register as aircraft owners because of a loophole in the FAA's definition of a U.S. citizen. Excuse me. Although the FAA says only U.S. citizens can register aircraft, as long as a trustee is a U.S. citizen, they can in turn register aircraft for anyone else, even for non-U.S. citizens. Yeah, that's what Europeans and other Latins do. They get a trustee in the United States to buy property to kind of keep it off the radar of their local governments. More than 11,000 aircraft are owned by trusts in the U.S., and from our research, it appears only a small number of these are alleged to have been used to facilitate the drug trade. For those identified for this article, however, we were able to piece together a clear pattern in how they purchased and registered before ending up in a smoking wreckage in Venezuela. I'll just continue following the trail. First, a U.S. registered aircraft would appear for sale online, usually on a site that specializes in private jet sales like projects.com, aircraft.com, or planphd.com. At this point, the aircraft we observed tended to have a flight history that showed them mostly operating mostly in North America. Tracking sites would display the aircraft prior flights, and plane spotting enthusiasts would post pictures of the aircraft arriving at and departing from various airports. After being purchased through one of the aircraft brokerages, the registered owner on the FAA's website would change to a U.S.-based trust or limited liability company, the LLCs that I talk about a lot. Another form of corporate structure in which companies' officers, those in charge of the LLCs, are not personally liable for a company's debts or financial losses. That is true. Trusts versus LLCs. A trustor places an asset in a trust to be managed by the trustee. The main difference between a trust and an LLC is that a trust is a legal relationship, while an LLC is in essence a business. The benefits of registering an aircraft with a trust are clear. Trusts offer anonymity and a U.S. citizen who can register the plane. The benefits for LLCs are slightly less clear, as LLCs have tighter citizenship and disclosure requirements than trusts. My understanding, that's true. To be sure, there are also ways to establish LLCs to maximize anonymity and tax avoidance when purchasing aircraft. That's also true. However, the real advantage for some owners in using LLC to register an aircraft may lie in the overlap between liability and leases. Now I'm not going to read the rest of this. They're just commenting how all this is said and done to create anonymity, in some cases low or no tax. I'm thinking of states like Wyoming, Nevada, New Mexico. Until they changed the law in New Mexico, you didn't have to have the beneficial, whoever owned it, didn't have to be named. I think they tried to change that. I'm not sure if they actually have yet. Anyways, I'll continue a little bit. The trustors of aircraft owned in Venezuela are typically law firms, corporate service companies, tax advisory consultants, while the trustees are LLCs or generic-sounding corporations based in the U.S. with light business regulations like Utah or Delaware. It's interesting how they point out Utah. As mentioned previously, registering aircraft in a trust or LLC through an arrangement such as one described here is not in itself a sign of wrongdoing. That's important to point out. Anyways, this is a very lengthy article, and they tried to do their best they could to track all this, but they couldn't really find who the beneficial owners were. It's just more information like on these planes going from the United States to Mexico and then to Venezuela eventually. Very fascinating. The reason I'm not reading most of this is because that's mainly the meat of it, how they're using U.S. people all over the world use U.S. LLCs and U.S. trust law to kind of hide their assets, as opposed to U.S. citizens doing this. Now, either the U.S. government can't figure this out. You would think, since this is involved in the drug trade, they could put pressure on these registrars in the United States and these lawyers in the United States for trusts. So either there's something's going on that we're not being told, or the people who run these things are really, really clever. So who knows what's going on? Maybe it's just intelligence services behind these things and doing what they do, or it's just like what the article says, just U.S. lawyers setting up LLCs and trusts to hide the ownership of airplanes and who owns them and who controls them, stuff like that. Anyways, this is at, if you want to check this article, it's at bellingcat.com. I just find it fascinating that in the United States, people from other countries can buy up corporations and hide their assets. It's very, very fascinating and interesting. Anyways, who owns these planes? They never really got to the bottom of it. Are drug cartel people, intelligence type people who are involved in drug cartels? Cartel people involved in the cartels? I don't know. But according to the article, with clever uses of LLCs and trusts, they can't figure that out. So either they can't figure it out or someone's lying. I don't know. But I'm going to shut this off and upload it and leave a comment on what you think is going on. I don't know what's going on, but this is why I talk a lot about LLCs and offshore companies and Society Anonymous. Because once you set these things up and if you set them up right, it's hard to figure out what's going on half the time. Anyways, none of this can be construed as tax advice or legal advice. I'm just saying what really goes on in the world. Like, share, leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this article.